Banger. Halloween week, y'all. I don't mess with Halloween. What's up, FG?
What's going on with you, Al?
You do anything for Halloween?
Worked? Shit, I was at work, but I seen some. Hey, let me tell you something real fast. I'm delivering at an Arco. It's Monday morning, about 4 in the morning. I'm doing the receipts. This is my last station. I'm about to get ready to go home. Guy walking the Arco. Tattoos all on, white guy. Tattoos all on his neck, hands. You know, I could tell maybe he's an ex. Somebody that was for real, you know, Hell's Angels, Mongrels type dude or ex-gang member. And but on his way to work now, like, you know, the rest of us grown folks do. So I'm in and now doing the paperwork. And since we were so close, he was getting some coffee, creamer and shit like that. Since we were so close, I felt it was cool to look up and at least speak to the guy. You know what I mean? Judge him and see if he want to speak. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what you got to do nowadays. Alex, when I looked up at him, his eyes, the way his eyes looked, man, was so demonish, you know, that for the first time ever, I kind of looked back down for a second, right? Then I looked back up, not realizing it was Halloween, you know.
Oh,
he was on his way to work, had some special eyeballs in.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, this shit looked so crazy, man. We laughed. Like I told him, my man, I thought I was finna meet my maker, man. You know what I mean?
You was about to knock him out, though?
Hey, man, be honest with you, it was so demonic, man. It felt like something out of remember the Twilight Zone back in the day? Man, but yeah, I seen a lot of nice costumes out there, man, to be honest with you. They really participated out there. You know, I'm not a strong, you know, I don't participate, but yeah, I seen some nice costume.
Yeah, man, I didn't participate. I don't even give away candy. A couple kids knocked on my door. I turned the light off on the porch, but they still knocked.
No, they still knock, man. They don't give a damn.
I opened up the door,
and
I said, man, I hope y'all have a good time, but I don't celebrate Halloween.
Yeah.
And they was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and my door didn't even get answered.
But shoot, it was a bad Halloween for hip hop, though.
No doubt, man. It definitely was, man. And at the same time, you know, while some people was out having a good time, you know, me honestly though, Alex, you know, when you a kid though, bro, you don't know all the politics and religions and, you know, certain situations that go on in life. So you just celebrate shit as a kid. You know what I mean? And that part I get. You know what I mean? All the kids they don't give a damn about none of the shit that's going on in the world. They want some candy, man. That's all they want.
Yeah, but you still dealing, if you believe the way I feel about it, it's like you use the word demonic. Even the kids, if the kids, they don't know what's going on, but you putting them in this environment where there is demonic ideas, thoughts, and beliefs real close by.
No doubt, but if the parents don't take that into the consideration and they really just, hey, my kids want to dress up and go get some candy, that's all they're thinking. They not thinking of, you know, other things. Then I get it, bro. You know what I mean? It's like I said, at the end of the day, man, you can't blame the kids from just wanting some candy. But man, while these people were over here, you know, laughing and joking and loving the costumes, man, tragic shit went down.
Well, you know, on the note about the kids, man, maybe some people might think I'm a bad parent, but I refuse. I refuse to ever let my kids go knocking door to door on Halloween, trick or treating, getting in a costume, and they don't know what they missed out on because they never did it. They may have heard about it. They may know, oh, you get some candy, but because they never done it, I don't really think they missed out on anything. And if you ask them now, they're all teenagers. They probably wouldn't even say that they felt like they missed out on anything.
Well, you know what, man, I'm going to be honest with you. You know, some of my cousins and stuff, they grew up a Jehovah's Witness. So they grew up not celebrating Christmases and certain shit. And when I talk to them, Alex, they say they missed out, man. You know what I mean? So,
for real? They say that?
Yeah, they say shit, man. We wasn't getting nothing, man, you know. And they didn't grow up to stay Jehovah's Witness, you know, but that was the household.
I bet their parents are still, though.
Well, you know, their dad was the one really pushing the line. And once he passed away, you know, they were more or less like, you know, kind of older. They started living their life how they live their life, you know. Me, I grew up doing trick-or-treat, man. You know what I mean? I grew up door to door. And the cold part about it is my grandmother been over in Fire Deuce Hoover Hood for over 60 years. So we would go to my grandmother's house. So we on 48th, 49th, 54th.
And all those
and Hoover and all them streets had houses. But you come back with so much candy, you barely can hold your bag. You know what I mean? So and then back then, my parents didn't teach us about no spirits or no nothing like that. We just went out and got candy, man. So the people that do just go out and get candy, you know, I do get it. But at the end of the day, once I got grown and started to understand shit, I knocked it off myself. I stopped doing it myself.
Well, I want to shout out the JWs because, you know, if they stick to certain beliefs and traditions, regardless of how fun it is for the kids, that's a tough thing to do, man. To not tell your kids to not do something that all the other kids are doing, regardless if it's birthdays, Christmas, Halloween, because there's a lot of things we don't want our kids to do that the outside world is doing, like drugs, getting high, and all this other stuff too. So it all falls under the same category to me.
No, you're absolutely right, but it takes us to get the knowledge and self-awareness, in order to push that, you know what I mean? So like you say, right now, I don't celebrate, the Thanksgiving, the Halloweens, I don't celebrate Christmas, but that's just me. I don't knock nobody else for what they do, but just, and me and we don't just, because I have the knowledge now and the beliefs of what I believe in. So I get you on that. And like you said, if they keep pushing their line, then, they won't even worry about it. Like you said, they won't miss nothing that they ain't never had.
Yeah, I got influenced by some Jehovah's Witnesses in my life too. No one really pressed a line in my family, and I didn't really press a line on it with my kids. But when they was speaking on certain things about religion, about holidays and demonic spirits and things of that sort, I was feeling that. But I let my kids kind of, now that they're late teens, they're going to develop into their own people, their own, individual personalities, and shoot, they might have kids and do all the stuff with their kids that they didn't do with me,
No doubt. It all depends who they marry as well. If somebody convincing them, well, it's just candy, stop taking it so far, you think it too much. But I never forget one day, Alex, Jehovah's Witness knocked on my door, man, and I had the time this morning, right? You know what I mean? And they would ask me, well, why is you not, ask me why don't I? I opened my door up and stepped out on the porch, and we went at it. You know what I mean?
Y'all chopped it up,
man,
huh?
We chopped it up. But at the end of the thing, they said, man, we respect that. But I guess they just wanted to know why I wasn't buying into what they were selling.
Yeah.
And this morning I had the time, and I never forget that, man.
Yeah, man. Well, every Halloween, it seems like something crazy happens in the world. There was also, I don't know if you've heard about this trampling, either in North Korea or South Korea during a concert.
Man.
About 150 people died.
Hell yeah.
It was crazy. I think that fell on Halloween in their time zone. But we're going to talk a little bit about what happened here in the United States on Halloween. We lost a member of one of the most iconic hip-hop groups in America, man, the Migos. They ain't no joke. I think they was nominated for a Grammy or even won a Grammy some years back.
You know what? The Migos was a top group, man. They were really talented, and they came through. At first I wasn't buying into them, and then once I started checking them out, they was doing their thing, Alex, and they went on to keep doing their thing. And even when they separated, they still was doing their thing. So that's when you know that there's talent all through the group. When three dudes can separate and all three of them be successful, man, that was talent right there.
And they're from Atlanta, and like Atlanta now, it used to be New York was the mecca of hip hop. Then when the West Coast got put on, LA was the mecca of hip hop. But it's been down south for a minute now, man. Atlanta is sort of the epicenter of the South, and the South been doing it, man, for this last decade. Would you agree with that?
Man, South been putting their work here, man. Much as I hate to admit it, you know what I mean? Because I was around when the West was running. I was around when the East had it.
Yeah.
The West took it, you know what I mean? And then, like you say, Scarface and all them, and it trickled on down to the South, man. And they put that shit down, man, and I can't take nothing from them.
Yeah, well, we'll touch on that in a minute, man. But I wanted to tap in with a previous topic that we had, an update on the Los Angeles City Council. It turns out that Kevin DeLeon has publicly said he is not stepping down. And he said the only way to get rid of him, the only way you're going to get rid of me is a recall election.
Well, they put it in the play then.
Yeah.
Since you want to put that out there that this was not what you're going to do, this what we going to do. So they put it into play. I think they need what? Is it 21,000 votes?
21,000 signatures.
21,000.
No, first they need the signatures.
Right. That's what I meant. Signatures. 21,000 signatures. They gonna push forward with it. They still camping out. They just went to the city council meeting Thursday, I believe.
Yeah.
And shut it down. They had to censor them just based on they still push. And the thing about it is what I say. It's just it's all races up there pushing, Alex. And that's the thing about it, man. It's just not an issue, even though it was towards us. It's everybody pushing, and I could appreciate that.
Man, I actually finally heard Marquise Dawson. What's his whole name? Marquise Dawson's another brother on the city council. He spoke on local news, and he said that if you go to DeLeon's house right now, He says everybody that's protesting is Mexican.
Real shit.
Real
shit.
And that's true.
And to be honest with you, I kind of knew that. You know what I mean? I haven't been there, so I couldn't put the stamp on it. But I really wanted to say, man, that they really push it, man. And this is, that's another story. But at the same time, it should be a unified front based on what he did, what was done. But I appreciate them for being there. They have, they want to get him up out of there, and he need to get up out of there.
Well, I think his strategy is, let me see how many more $17,000 checks I can get.
Shit, no doubt. No doubt. It's hard to be mad at it.
If you was Kevin DeLeon, would you politely bow out, or would you say, y'all gonna have to push me out?
Man, at $17,000 a month, man, you got to do something more than just sit outside my house.
I almost can't hate on him, man.
Shit, it's hard to, it's but it goes to show you, when we elect these city officials, when integrity is involved, you get to see firsthand of how different people act. And you get to see right now how Kevin DeLeon is acting. This is not a form of integrity. This is not a form of I'm really for the people. This is not a form of, I'm here for the city. You not, bro. Because when you drop the ball, you didn't get out the way. Now, on the $17,000 point, I get it, but on the integrity side, come on, man, don't do that.
Yeah, because he's basically putting city government at a halt, man. They can't do meetings like normal. You got a whole bunch of people in there protesting, shutting it down. Things aren't getting done. So, I don't know how long it takes for the recall, for them to get this 21,000 signatures, and then they got to get a date for the election, and then everybody got to come out and vote. I don't know how long it's going to take, but it sounds like the process is going to take at least 3, 4, 5 months.
Yeah, but if that's the process that it needs to take to get it done, because he's there till 2024, then it needs to get done.
Yep. Well, I think there's going to be an expiration date on his term that will expire before 2024, and we'll tap in with you guys and give you an update on that. I want to talk about this Terrell Owens case, man, because Terrell Owens recorded this white girl in his Florida neighborhood some months back. This happened in August, actually. But they finally charged the white girl that was making a complaint against Terrell Owens with a misdemeanor of filing a false report, and it has a lot of racist undertones to it. Did you get a chance to actually check out that August video of Terrell Owens?
You know what? I checked out the video, and for the people who know about the Terrell Owens situation down in Florida, people might have looked at it like me, saw it, listened to a little bit of it, got the gist of it and moved on. I encourage them to go back and listen to the full-length video of it. This was a sad situation, man. Good thing that he recorded, some of it for us to see. This was a real live situation of what goes on in America, man. And when the police came and she lied to the police, put the extras on it for the police and in front of the police, that's when I was disappointed. Now, I could have been disappointed before the police got there and she was just doing her little act. But once the police came and you put the extras on it like that, see shit like this, though, Alex, people need to see so they can understand what's going on. And once she said, you're a black man getting out of you stopped your car, you're a black man approaching a white woman. Man, I lost it.
Well, let me play a little bit of, I'll play a portion of the clip. I believe the whole clip is about 5 minutes. Let me play a little bit of it right here.
She telling me,
just Terrell Owens right here.
Slow down. And he rolled down his window and he started harassing. First of all, I didn't harass you. She telling me to slow down. I said, what do you mean slow down? I said, yo, I'm just going to the mailbox. Then she goes, get the fuck out the middle of the road. First of all, I almost hit you. Now you just making up stuff. No, I literally just like a Karen. You almost hit me. How did I almost hit you and I'm going to the mailbox? Yeah, I'd call you a Karen when I came over here after you said I called the police. Absolutely. Then you went on to say, oh, I'm the subject of the HOA meeting, this and that and the other. I got liens and shit on my house, this and that and the other. Then you start bringing up my status, who I was, my HBO, my VH1. You the one brought it up, lady. I did it. You did it. You did. First of all, I didn't almost hit her. Sir, no, I'm fine, sir. First of all, I didn't almost hit her.
I understand that. Just relax.
I'm not finna sit up here.
He ran the stop sign.
Well, there is no stop sign. What are you talking about?
I understand that. What did you hit?
I wasn't, but I asked him to slow down, and
Right, because you're going to yell at me and telling me I'm almost hit you, and I didn't.
But you didn't have to get out of your fucking car.
You didn't have to talk to me that way either, Karen.
You're a black man approaching a white woman.
First of all, you had your boy right here, your husband right here. So first of all, I don't do that type of stuff.
Relax.
You did. You put your car in park and you came at me.
I think we get the point on that, right, F?
No doubt.
I didn't even play it to the part where she starts to cry.
She started to cry,
like
yeah,
we've seen other Karens do on these
yeah.
cameras, man. I was actually appalled that she said that you're a black man approaching a white woman. Like, that's supposed to mean something.
Now, Alex, here's what they think about you. You know what I mean? Here's what they think about us.
That's an Ice Cube, right?
No doubt. And you know, even the cop probably peeped out the whole scene.
Yeah.
Once she said that, she might have had him for a second, had his ear. Once she said that, man, she probably lost him. You know, as far as, wow, did she just say that? You know, you didn't say, you know, approaching a black man approaching a white woman. Like it was 1953 or something. You know what I mean? That was wild for me, man.
Well, I think the cop was already on Terrell's side when she said you went through the stop sign, and obviously there's no stop sign there.
Right.
So I think he realized, okay, this woman is throwing extras on it.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, the whole audio, the whole video of it is just atrocious. And I'm glad that they charged that white woman. She's only hit with a misdemeanor, though, which means she's probably not going to jail, but it's at least putting her in the spotlight.
Yeah. No, it's putting her in the spotlight, but at the same time, you know, it's you know me, I don't advocate for people going to jail.
Yeah.
But in this situation, whether it's you know, she may end up with a fine or may end up with a small probation or may end up, you know, you can't just do this to people, bro. You can't just, you know, lie and accuse, you know, and just because you white, you know, and it's probably worked before, you know, you can't just do it like this. It had to be some kind of repercussions, you know. And, you know, growing up, we going to send somebody over there to whoop your ass. But nowadays, you know, you can't do that no more. And she needs to be charged, man, and needs to be held accountable for, you know, the shit that's coming out her mouth because it's foul.
Well, her name is Kaitlin Davis. She's charged with filing a false police report after that conflict with Terrell Owens. And it looks like, you know, she's probably going to get a minor misdemeanor conviction, slap on the wrist, probably no jail time. But, you know, at least her name is everywhere and it's going viral.
Right, no doubt. And people get to see and get a chance to see that, you know, this shit is really happening. You know, everybody want to make it seem like this ain't happening and, you know, we exaggerate and, you know, just forget about it. No, this shit is still happening today. And this is a prime example of it. So I'm glad that this was brought to the forefront, man, so people can see that we just not out here tripping, man. We really going through it out here. And we going through it where it's not being video recorded. We going through it where it's not being, you know, told to the police. You know, this shit is really happening on a daily basis to some people, and it's not being reported. So for her to finally be, you know, held accountable for this, man, I ain't gonna lie, I'm with that.
Hey, what would we do if we didn't have cameras on our cell phones and able to record all these things like we've been doing for the last like 5 years?
Be called liars.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, be called liars. That's what we'll be doing, man. And we'll be called liars, and people would, you know, believe some of the shit that we say or we see. You know, I've got videos of the homies that done sent me some videos of situations where they've been in situations like this, and they laughed it off based on dude don't even know who he talking to. You know, he don't even know, homie. You know what I mean? Like these some cold-hearted gangsters. Like this dude don't even know who he talking to. You know, and but it's still going and it's still strong, man.
Well, you know, back in Emmett Till's day, this was in the 1950s, the 14-year-old boy that got killed for apparently disrespecting a white woman. Here we are maybe 70-something years later, and we finally getting the whole story on how Emmett Till was completely innocent, how Emmett Till was victimized, and how the people that killed Emmett Till should have been brought to justice. And there's actually one person still alive. I think this person's so old they're not going to do anything. But this is what happens when there's no way to prove it. No cameras, right? No documentation.
No doubt, but at the same time, and you know, the lady that you talk about in the Emmett Till case, you know, confessed that she lied. You know, she 100 years old, but man, she should have had to be held accountable. Man, this dude lost his life.
Yeah.
You know, this dude is in history books and stuff like that for a lie that you told. You know, and of course, you finally came clear after you was 101 years old or something, and said that it wasn't really that. You know what I mean? And it wasn't like she didn't even get enough condemning. You know, they didn't even condemn her enough for me. You know what I mean? Even if you didn't take her into custody, even if you didn't charge her, you know, you didn't even condemn her enough to nobody got on. I didn't see anybody get on the news and apologize for, or, you know, make us, you know, they just didn't give a shit.
Hey, I'm thinking that what Kaitlin Davis did to Terrell Owens, even though it looks like it's a minor thing, this is what got Emmett Till killed. It was a minor false accusation.
No doubt.
Didn't Kaitlin Davis just make a minor false accusation?
No doubt.
Those are the things that got brothers killed. You
back
know,
in the
50s and 60s.
Yeah,
so I'm glad that Terrell Owens, as a celebrity, went through it, because even his status and his money doesn't prevent him from going through it.
No, we know that for sure. That it doesn't prevent it. You know, and
she knew who he was, right?
No,
she knew he was an NFL football player.
She knew exactly what it was, you know. But like she said, you know, she brought up his past due, HOA, you know, dues. It's okay. I'm late on my dues, but that don't make me being able to be accused of, you know, that was foul, man. But she's been charged. I do believe it's a step in the right direction. You know me, I'm not for one, that want to see people brought up on, you know, charges. But if this is the way you got to deal with them, then so be it.
You got to deal with them. Well, they only understand police. They only understand the police.
No doubt.
All right, let's move on to, let's see here. I mean, we got to talk about, let's talk about the Oath Keepers, man. The Oath Keepers, I like the Oath Keepers, man, because the Oath Keepers are going to prison. I know you don't wish no prison on nobody, but these Oath Keepers they're right-wing Donald Trump supporters that have promoted violence against people of color. They promoted violence against Black and Jews. Mm-hmm. They're just anti-Black organization, an anti-Jew organization, but they think they're really doing the right thing by fighting. They were part of the January 6th Capitol riots, and now about 4 or 5 of them are on trial. 2 of them are telling, and really they're trying to put the leader away, a guy named Stewart Rhodes. And they're all on federal trial right now, man. Why the heck would these guys even think they should go to trial against the feds?
Maybe because Guy referenced, you know, girlfriend, you know, enticed them to, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, you know, you do have 2 people that's getting up on the witness stand right now. You know, you have a 46-year-old ex-Marine, I believe his name was Jason something, and, you know, he's definitely got up there and testified. You know, once people get up there and start testifying, then the next people that's on trial at the moment, you know, what are you going to go to trial and say when you got somebody who already done said how the program went? The other guy who testifying, did you get his name?
Graydon Young.
Graydon Young. One thing I did notice about Graydon Young is he didn't say that, he didn't point the finger and say that somebody said, this is what we're going to do. He did say it felt like it was the right thing to do, you know, at that moment, you know, but he was bamboozled in believing that the elections were stolen. He really bought in, you know, but at the end of the day, he didn't get up there and say, you know, Stewart told us to do it, or this guy told us to do it. He just said it just felt like it was the right thing to do. So he told, but he didn't, you know, put the extras on it, you know.
Yeah, he testified in federal court, and he actually made it sound as if he really bought into Donald Trump's rhetoric that the election was stolen and that we have to do something about it. And if he was really influenced by what Donald Trump was saying, that means that whole Capitol riots was influenced by Donald Trump.
No doubt, they definitely were, you know, and they believed that it was stolen. He had them mesmerized. He was speaking a language. I don't even believe that he believed everything he was saying, but he knew the right language to speak to get them sparked and running, and they definitely did that. The thing I did have with one more time, what was his name?
Graydon Young.
Graydon Young. The thing I had about Graydon Young was he went to participate in all this activity. put everything on the line to put in the work, but he didn't want his mother to know. He didn't want his parents to know. He was trying to hide it from him. You know what I mean? So he wasn't gangster like that. You know what I mean? He was trying to do it on a secret tip. You know what I mean? But like he said, he got up there. He couldn't take it. He didn't want to do no time. He's still looking at 5 years, but he may not get none of that. Yeah, I'm thinking he won't based on, they needed him to get up there and cooperate and make sure they corroborate the story. So he may get probation or a year and a day or some real smooth,
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because last year he actually pleaded guilty. So that means all this time he has been participating with cooperating with the feds.
No doubt.
And I guess maybe his co-defendants didn't know.
Exactly.
But it says here in this CNN article that Young was the first Oath Keeper to plead guilty to the conspiracy charges, testifying that he quickly felt the effects of his actions on January 6th. At the time of his guilty plea last year in 2021, he said he had been assisting the government prosecutors for months in their investigation against the far right-wing group, including against his own sister. And then it says that he had a plea hearing to where he's looking at up to 5 years in prison, but he hasn't been sentenced yet because they want to wait for all the cases to end until they sentence Mr. Graydon Young.
No doubt.
So what actually happens during these plea hearings where you're actually going to agree, okay, I'm gonna say I'm guilty, I'm wrong, because you actually went through this before.
No doubt, but he had a different kind of plea.
Yeah, no doubt.
He had a plea hearing where he gave them testimony, he gave them information, he gave them insight, he gave them something for his plea. You know what I mean? At the time, at the end of the day, when all said and done, we may can go back and pull his case up, and he may have the 5K1.
He's going to be on pacer for sure.
No doubt. He should have the 5K1, Rule 35B. He's going to have some attachments to his plea. Other than that, when you take a plea agreement, you basically sit there and say, okay, I'm going to plead guilty. This is what I did. This is my role in the situation, and this is what I did. You don't have to say nothing. You don't have to add nothing. All you have to do is agree that this is what you did. In furtherance of this conspiracy, I distributed, more than 50 grams of cocaine, and I'm gonna accept this 10 years. That's it. You know what I mean? So in his plea agreement, he probably, like I say, I'm sure he has a downward departure, and he's going to get it,
Okay, I got a question about this because he's testifying against Stewart Rhodes, who's the leader of the Oath Keepers. Now, let's say that Graydon Young does have to do a little time. Mm-hmm. What's the chances of Graydon Young and Stewart Rhodes ending up at the same federal facility doing their time?
Slim and none.
Okay, they know there's no way that they should put them in the same prison, and why?
What they have a thing called a separatese. And they'll put a separatese on them to where the BOP system will never let them bump into each other at the same facility. It has happened based on slip-ups. I had a few separatees put on me while I was in prison, based on, finding out people wasn't right and telling them they had to leave a yard. I didn't know at the moment that this shit goes into your file. And after that moment, me and this person will never be on the same yard ever again. But yeah, they have a separatese, man. And they have it in the system to where you guys you supposed to never bump heads as a facility. Whitey Bulger should have had one, but at the same time, they slipped up and, let him get got. And I've seen it before. I've seen dudes, co-defendants who, supposed to have separatees, some way end up on the same yard and it went down. But for the most part, they'll keep them separate. No doubt.
Do you think white guy like Stewart Rhodes, who's on trial now, will treat snitching and informing on the same way that the blacks and the Mexicans do in prison?
Nah, no doubt they won't. Well, the white boys may, depending on where you go. He's going to a low. He's going no higher than a low. And when you get there, it's not going to be a problem for him because nobody give a shit at the low because everybody doing their time. Like I say, they cushy tennis courts and and yoga and shit like that. So they not finna even care at that facility. People will know what he came for. That's one thing the yard will know is why you there. And then people would decide if they're gonna, deal with you or not. But at most parts, down at that low, man, it's gonna be a white, because he's a white guy, right?
Yeah, these are all white guys.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, man, he won't have a problem.
But Stewart Rhodes, the ringleader of the whole Oath Keepers, he's looking at the most time out of anybody. I mean, I think he could even get sentenced up to 10 years. Can you do that much time on a low?
I don't think. Well, hell yeah, you can, depending on your points low, because they flip flop back and forth with the point system. They flip flop back and forth. You used to can, go straight to camp. I heard you got to stop at a low for a minute, then go to a camp. I hear different things. They change shit up. But for Stewart, he could end up at a medium. The thing about it though is when he get there though, the white boy is gonna be there with a big sack of everything he need. He's gonna, to be honest with you, he's gonna be a big deal. They gonna take care of him. They gonna make sure he's straight. He's gonna be honorable. He gonna do his time honorably.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Okay, well, let's say Graydon Young, there's a mix up, and Graydon Young ends up in that same place. Those white boys are gonna tell Stewart Rhodes, "Hey, Graydon Young is on the yard." Are they going to say, go handle your business?
Maybe not. They going to have some young white boys down there, and they going to tell them to go handle it because they going to look at the road. What's his name again?
Graydon Young?
The other guy.
Stewart Rhodes.
Stewart. They going to look at Stewart like he a G. Like, you orchestrated that, bro. We got you. No. You ain't got to do it. You ain't got to get your hands dirty. Hey, youngster, go down there and go handle that.
Okay.
He going to go down there and put that work in and shit. You know what I mean? And Stewart gonna still live comfortably. They gonna make sure you eat good and all that, man, for real.
Yeah, Stewart is definitely gonna be doing some time though. They're making an example out of him. They're making him even worse than Guy Reffitt.
True, but I just really believe when it comes to politics and really when it comes to these white folks and when it comes to this situation as the riot capital shit, you got politicians who is secretly with it. So
no doubt,
dudes like Stewart money gonna pop up on their books. He ain't gonna know how it got there. You know what I mean? Special treatment gonna pop up for him. He ain't gonna know how it happened. You know what I mean? Shit, this ain't no hood shit. You know what I mean? These dudes, invaded the Capitol, bro, and in defense of Donald Trump, man, these dudes they gonna trust me, man. Stewart ain't gonna have an issue, bro.
Yeah, because Donald Trump still has a lot of support from the Republican Party. But the problem is right now the Justice Department is being ran under Joe Biden, and these people hate Trump. So I feel like they're going to try to make a huge example out of Stewart Rhodes because this is the Biden, the Biden organization is pushing this line.
Okay, the Biden organization is pushing the line. They can give him 20 years. Let the Republicans get back in because they don't feel that Joe Biden is doing a good enough job. I hear a lot of complaints about him.
Yep.
The Republicans could easily get back in and they go give him a pardon. They not even if they don't give him a pardon, they could commute his sentence. They can do a lot of things to get him home. Before you know it, he been home a year and we ain't even paid attention.
Hey, there's a chance that Trump gets reelected in 2024.
It's definitely possible. Only reason I don't think it's highly likely because of some of this the Capitol riot shit. You still have people who are Republicans who didn't like that shit. They wasn't feeling that. You know what I mean? You went against America. So you still have those people as well. You still have a lot of people who, like you say, was in support of Donald Trump, but wasn't in support of the Capitol riots. So you have to deal with those people as well. Donald Trump could run. It wouldn't cost him nothing to not. But I believe, you got Paul Ryan probably coming up. You got some other younger dudes that's coming up. Donald Trump old. You got some fresh young blood I believe this shit kind of be decided who gonna run 15 years down the line. Okay, you gonna go, then it's my turn. So I think a young Republican gonna come up, like I say, gonna come up and step up through the ranks and, they may get behind him,
Well, Donald Trump has a huge support, but there is a chance that they might indict Donald Trump. There's been a lot of talk of him getting indicted, and I think the only reason why they would do that is to prevent him from running.
To keep him from running. That'll be it.
But I don't think there's any other Republican that could beat Donald Trump right now in getting the party nomination. Ryan he's out of Florida, I think.
I don't know, man. You got Lindsey Graham and them over there, been around a long time, homie. And just like they gave Joe Biden, see, Joe Biden was going to get his regards. He been in Congress so long that they said, man, Joe going to go after Obama. Like I said, me personally, I believe this shit is preordained from these parties, you know what I mean, for who gonna get up in there. Look, man, Joe been around too long. We got to get him up in there, Now they done put Joe old ass up there. He can't even tell a speech properly, without forgetting shit, So, okay, Joe, we gave you your turn. We gave you 4 years, man. You did 8 as a vice. You did 4 as your legacy is good. now we gonna put somebody. Well, thing about it is a Democrat can't even run. That's the problem.
Nah,
you get me? So
it's
you
gonna be Biden versus whoever they got. I think it's gonna be Biden Trump. I'm going out on a limb and say Biden Trump. They're gonna go at it for 2024 because who else they gonna put? Unless Biden just says, "Hey, I did my 4 years. I'm gonna give it to somebody else to go up against the Republicans." But
I've never seen that. Have you?
nah. Let me think.
Yeah, I've never seen that one.
Nah.
But what I think is, like I say, you got Paul Ryan down there. You still got Lindsey Graham and all them dudes that been there, them G's down there. They may say, Trump, you had your shot. We finna. It's our turn. Cause all they doing is getting there, getting rich and getting on and. So I don't believe in none of the shit anyway.
Well, whoever gets in there, because at some point they're going to have a Republican president.
Oh, no doubt.
Whether it's 2024 or 2028, whoever that Republican is going to be, he's going to commute or, turn over the convictions of the 900 people from the Capitol riots, probably.
No doubt. Most of them may be home, but then like Stewart, he may be, there. Guy Reffett may still be there. Yeah. Dude's coming home. Well, it all depends, though. Like I say, all of them wasn't with it. But they may give them an action and appeal and say, okay, you've been down for it, go on, let him come home. He did do some time, so they may do it like that as well.
Yeah, so far, 928 people have been arrested. So, and that number keeps on going up every week.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's going to go up to about 1,500. It looked like at least 2,000 people was on there. All right, man, so... We'll tap in with you guys with the results of this Oath Keepers trial, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say Stewart Rhodes is going to be found guilty of everything. Man. I don't see him getting acquitted of any of this. It's almost a waste of time, but I don't know if they offered him a deal, but yeah, it's an interesting trial, the Oath Keepers. All right, so man, you brought this to my attention, man. This we talked about this on a previous episode of Streets and Scholars. We talked about this white girl, Courtney Klenney, who stabbed and killed her boyfriend, Christian Obumsley. And forgive me if I'm pronouncing his name wrong, but she stabbed and killed Christian. And when the police came, they kind of just let her go, even though she was bloodied up. Her shirt was all bloodied up. She stabbed him in the chest or the shoulder chest area. But they had a very tumultuous relationship, man. I mean, we've all had these tumultuous relationships. I don't think I've ever had anything as I don't even know what the word is to describe these audios. I mean, as soon as a woman talks to me like that, I'm probably not going to see you again.
You know what? I think they may not believe exactly what to the extent of what speaking of, those audios were something, man, that they may just have to listen to themselves, Alex, in order to get a understanding of what actually was going on. This was the young lady who, like Alex say, she stabbed her boyfriend. She went to the police station. She was there for so many hours. They let her go. She was at the nightclub the next night partying. Time went on, and then she was charged with this murder.
Yeah, man. But even before, I have an audio here I'm going to play, but even before this clip that you brought to my attention, we've already seen video of them fighting in the elevator. We've heard other arguments between them, and it just seems like who wants to go through this consistent barrage of verbal abuse time and time again? And the only thing I can think of is, I guess Christian just liked the pussy too much.
Nah, he motherfucking definitely he disappointed me, Alex. Yeah. You know what I mean? And when I'm a man's man, no doubt about it. Nothing against women at all, but I'm a man's man. And at the end, he disappointed me so much. Even in the elevator when she was hitting him back in the previous episode that we spoke on, you showed the clip of where he was she was hitting him in the elevator, and even, friends of them got up on the stand and testified that they've always heard her talk shit to him, never him really talking shit to her. They've seen her hit him, never seen him hit her. So I like I said, I was disappointed, that he, because basically, I think him being that whipped, I'm going to call it.
Yeah, he was whipped.
Lost his life, made him lose his life because over a period of time, it just gave her the confidence and the courage to, do what she did and with no remorse, like he still wouldn't do nothing even after that.
Yeah, let me play this little clip here. This is a clip. Let's actually set the clip up for the listeners and let them know what they're about to listen to, because there's going to be some beeps, so they're really not going to hear what we telling them that is in the audio.
Okay, in the audio, this is an argument that they had. This audio reveals them in an argument, and she called him a nigga. They're going to bleep it out, but listen real good. You're going to actually hear, you're going to be able to tell exactly what it was, but it's bleeped out just based on, for audience purposes.
Okay, here we go.
Apologizing to you? Like you thinking I'm doing it on drop your high pitch. Okay, I'm not doing it on purpose. You tossed the alright. You know damn well the right thing to do is to tell me. Yes, and I am so sorry. So shut up and let me f***ing slap you, dumbass. No, you're not gonna slap me. Give me my phone. You have your phone. I don't have it anymore. Find it and f***ing charge it. What? Find it and charge it! I'm sorry, Courtney. I don't care. Find it and charge it. Hey, just stop. Don't touch me. God, man. Yeah, man. Oh, man. Because I'm telling you I'm sorry. Find my phone and charge it. I don't know where your phone is. Find it. Can you help me find it? I won! So why? Find it! Why are you screaming, man? Not man, but why? Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's a little man, huh? Shut the up. I need to find it because I have to go meet her again. To go out? No! You said she invited you. Christian, just find my goddamn.
All right, this chick is giving me a headache.
Man.
I don't,
in the beginning of the video, Alec, she should shut up, nigga, and slapped him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he just was like, honey, I tried, And I think all he did was, I think a lady said hi to him or some shit. You know what I mean? And why didn't you tell me? She says she spoke. And man, this was just a tragic situation where he just let, a motherfucker just completely run over him. Completely, oh man, she just I mean, he had no integrity for his self. No pride, no nothing.
She said, drop that high pitch.
And he said, I'm sorry.
Oh,
you know what I mean? And
that is a disgrace.
Damn.
This is a disgrace if you're a man out there and this is how you act. Because this is what gets people, women that think they can do this, she gonna try to do that to the next dude. And then she's going to do this to the next dude. What's going to eventually happen to her is somebody's going to kill her.
Somebody going to break her motherfucking jaw. You know what I mean? Or like she say she's not going to deal with men that she can't talk to like that. Or she can't get away with that like that. And I'm going to be honest with you, Alex. I've had females in my life that, that said, you know what I mean? Just like, I used to tell him this, that, and the other. You know what I mean? And I verbally said it's going to be a problem. You get at me like that, and even if the problem is me walking away and getting on is man, come on, man, ain't nobody putting up with that. That's wild. I don't want to blame this guy. This guy's dead from her stabbing him. I don't want to just blame him, but I'm gonna say it's his fault. It's his fault.
Now, if one of your sons is in a relationship with a girl, regardless of race, this was a white girl, but it could be anybody. And she's tripping like this. What kind of advice do you give to, even if it's just not your son, just to a young man to say, hey, pull him to the side? What do you say?
Well, I have a son that was in a toxic relationship with a young lady. She actually has my grandson, man. And she was a Crip. She was a gangster. He was too. You know what I mean? Now, he wasn't that type of dude, but they used to do too much fighting. They grown now. Years in past now, and it's not like that anymore. But at the same time,
are they together still?
No, they not. Okay. But they are cordial.
Because they have a child.
They do. They have a child. But he wasn't laying down. He wasn't on that type of shit. But had he been, I ain't gonna lie, Alex, I probably would have whooped his ass. I'd have been on his helmet so cold. I mean, just the man code. Where did you learn this from? There's nothing wrong with being in love. There's nothing wrong with, giving in to certain things that your woman wants. There's nothing wrong with, like I say, being head over heels. But at the same time, man, when you get to, tearing down your manhood, you get to, doing certain things like that, it definitely would have been a problem that I ain't gonna lie, I would have stepped in on, regardless who believe in it or who don't. I would have stepped in on it quick on my son's behalf to him, pulled him to the side and told him, no, you gonna want a problem with me or you gonna want a problem with her. But you gonna have to if you continue this kind of, keep going in this route, bro. Just 100.
Well, if she brings that type of energy to the relationship, my guess is she's still single today.
The young lady?
Yeah.
Actually, she is. But just the thing about it, he was an aggressive dude as well. You get two aggressive people, that wasn't backing down from shit. You know what I mean? So they were just two, at the end of the day, oh, we love her to death. She's a sweet person. She's in our life, like, for sure. She comes spend the night, and I mean, this, you know, she good with us. It's just they wasn't good together. You know, based on, you know, you get two attitudes that's similar, you know, two riders, you know, what you think gonna happen? You know, so once they realize that, okay, we just not good, we good for other people, we just not good for each other, you know, then sometimes that's just how it is, you know, just the person, you know, because she's a sweet person. It's just they wasn't sweet for each other.
So they were able to walk away from each other without anything crazy happening.
No, some crazy shit happened. Okay. You know what I mean?
But nothing like
no, nothing like that. And it wasn't like I said. That's a one-sided situation. This wasn't a one-sided situation. This was two people. Both of them was active. Mm-hmm. That's all that was. You pour some water on me, I'm gonna throw an iron back. You know what I mean? This was a different type of situation. That situation right there, man. It was dude. His whole manhood was gone. His whole everything about him. You know. I mean, I don't even know other females that tolerate that from another female partner. You know, that just was way too much. I don't know. I've never had no fire like that, you know, in my life to, you know, like I said, I've been in some crazy relationships, you know, but that right there, man, you know, goes beyond belief. You know, I think people can learn from it from both ways. That's listening to this, you know, the respect, like it's nothing he could do to ever gain her respect ever again. The only thing he could do, Alex, is just walk away from that relationship, bro.
I think there's one thing he could do, and it's not nothing that I would ever promote, but you have to whip some ass sometimes to get respect. Sometimes an ass whooping brings respect.
Well, the whole thing about it is not after it got that far, because I'm going to tell you what she gonna do.
Well, if he would have did it early on.
Right. Well, this is the thing about it.
And I'm not condoning, let me just say this before people start misinterpreting what I'm saying. I am no way condoning domestic violence in any way, shape, or form. He should have probably walked away from it. But just in answering your question, could he have turned this around? I do think that what's the proper term? A physical assault on, not just in a boyfriend girlfriend type situation, but even on the streets. If somebody keeps on taking money out your pocket, they're gonna keep taking money out your pocket until you do what to them? What will stop that guy from taking money out your pocket?
Well,
an ass whooping.
Yeah, true. You know what I mean. But at the same time, I know you want to go back down there, and, you know, kind of clean it up. But
yeah,
it is what it is. You know what I mean? No, it just is what it is. Yeah. But he couldn't ever turn that around, and let me tell you why. The reason he couldn't turn that around is because the same people that's listening to this episode of Streets and Scholars also seen what the lady Karen did with her name is Kaitlin, but the Karen did with T.O.
Yeah.
Had he turned around and tried to be any kind of physical, all she was gonna do is call the police and say, this big black guy, you know what I mean, who's physically fit, you know, assaulted me. They wouldn't give a damn what he said. He was going, you know, this is what it is, you know. Me personally, I'm not an interracial relationship guy. I don't knock it. You know what I mean? Me personally, I'm not. That's not for me because of these situations. You know what I mean? When you get in a lot of interracial relationships, you know, when it comes to arguments and the law and things like that, it's one-sided, bro. You know what I mean? It's one-sided, you know, and they always gonna look at the black man and this little Asian woman, you know, Hispanic, you know, it's always going to be looked at like that. You know what I mean? So they can disrespect you, you know, call you a nigga, do all this stuff. And when you snap, you the one going to jail.
So you think this white girl could probably get away from killing Christian?
No, I think it's too much evidence on her. You know, I think she's lied. I think she's been found, and, you know, they got the elevator video. They got this video. They got so many different videos to say this man was abused. She finally got enough courage to, you know, stab this dude. Look, if he wouldn't have died, he wouldn't have told. You know what I mean? And I've seen this situation before. You know what I mean? My little cousin stabbed her boyfriend. He didn't tell. You know what I mean? She nursed him back to health and shit. And, you know, he didn't tell. I've never had nothing. And he didn't do nothing.
But, you know, this guy never really defended himself against all her abuse in the past. And if he would have defended himself in the early part of the relationship, it might not have got this bad.
Well, they might not be in a relationship.
Or they might have,
you know what I mean?
They might have parted ways before he ended up stabbed to death.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. So my whole take on him is he should have defended himself from day one. You know, no love, no, she couldn't have loved you. If she loved you, bro, she wouldn't talk to you like that. She wouldn't treat you like that. She wouldn't do you like that. He seemed like a sweetheart of a gentleman. You know, like he would have did anything for her. That's what I mean when I say that. You know, there's really some good dudes out there, Alex, that, you know, take love in a whole different way and be like, baby, I will put my coat down too so you can walk over a puddle. You know, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's how you feel about a woman. At the end of the day, look what abuse you took and look how it changed because you felt this way about a woman. You know, I know so many women that don't even want a dude like him. You know, if I can run over you, I don't want you, you know. And there's really women out there, a lot of them that think like that. You know, they want a man to be a man, you know, and he definitely wasn't being that man, and it cost him his life.
Well, the only way that she has any chance of winning this case is by making him the villain. They gotta smut his name and drag him through the mud. But like you said, there's too much evidence out there that shows that he was not abusive.
No doubt, but the problem I'm gonna have with it, Alex, that I don't think she would get the time that a black woman would get if she would have did it. You know, and I'm not trying to make everything racial. I'm not trying to, you know, but I'm just stating the obvious in some situations. You know, I believe that they're not going to throw the whole book at her. They're going to throw a piece of it at her because her attorneys are going to come with some kind of, you know, but from all the evidence that we hear, you know, and we see, and, you know, nowadays evidence is getting out there fast. If we see it, you know, the prosecutors see it, the defense will see it. So I just don't think they gonna throw the book at her like that. Like she murdered this dude. So you should be getting a life sentence, no doubt, nothing less.
I think that if the prosecution's got to use this clip that we just played, I think that's going to be their number one clip because she's throwing the N-word out there, and then they got the video of her just punching him on the elevator,
right.
And then they have the evidence of her stabbing him while he was probably laying down in a defenseless position. There's no way I can see her beating this case at this point with the evidence thus far.
Not to mention they got the video of her at the club the next night after she was released from police custody. That kind of shows that, goddamn, you don't have no remorse. You know what I mean? I think even after some gangster shooter dudes, sometimes they might go chill for a day or two. You know what I mean? You know.
She didn't even lay low.
Man, she ain't lay low. She was partying, man. You know, so yeah.
Well, we're going to follow this trial, man, and we're going to see how grimy the defense attorneys get on this one. You know, I'm all for the defense teams, but on this one, man, I don't think she's got a defense. But all right, well, she's entitled to it, and we'll be tapping back in with her case. Hey, Patrick Lyoya, the police officer that shot him in the back of the head back in earlier this year in Grand Rapids, Michigan, Christopher Schurr. They finally charged him with second-degree murder, and I was actually a little bit shocked that they charged him because this is a video that I remember watching a few months back, and then we just revisited the video. And this is a scuffle. Like, this is a for real scuffle.
No doubt. I've just watched the video for the first time. You know, I did read all the information on it and checked it out. But once I seen the video, it did give me a clear perspective of, you know, what went down. So when you say you were surprised that he was charged, you know, based on officers we've seen not charged, yeah, this was a little... you know, I ain't gonna say shocking, but I did question it a little bit, like, wow, you know.
Because, I mean, it was a legitimate squabble. It was a legitimate tussle. And I guess this officer at the time didn't have a partner to help him put this dude in handcuffs because it looks like it's just him and the dude, Patrick. It's just him and Patrick on this front yard, and he's trying to cuff him, and he can't cuff him. And then this guy gets possession of the taser. And it just looks like, I would say, a guy that is, as you can fully non-comply with a cop, Patrick did it.
Well, no doubt, but when you read it, for people who didn't see the video, when you read it, Alex, it shows that the Patrick was shot in the back of the head while the police had a knee in his back. That's how it's read. Once I read that, I said, oh, no, he should be charged with it then. You know, I went back, watched the video, watched it several times, you know, and I keep reiterating. The officer said that his plates didn't match the vehicle. You know, at most, what, you got a stolen car. You know, I ain't gonna say at most. At least you got a stolen car. Let's go and say you got guns in the car, you got drugs in the car. You know, unless you got a ton of drugs that's gonna get you a life sentence, it was no reason for you to put up the kind of force that you did to not be arrested. You know, ultimately it cost you your life. At this has been months since this had went on. Had he had any drugs, guns, or anything like that, we would know by now.
Yeah, it would came out.
It would have came out. So therefore, basically, bro, I still haven't even heard if they said the car was actually stolen. It just said the plates didn't match the car. Even if the car was stolen, man, you go get your little 6 months, go get your whatever you gonna get you back home living your life. You got into a scuffle with this officer, you know, which I don't encourage people to do. He had the body cam on. There was other video footage of it. You know, he scuffled with you for a very long time. We've seen shootings with nowhere near that longer time. They went scuffling before the officer shot him. This officer really kind of did a whole lot, man, before he did. It's just I believe that because he shot him in the back of the head, that may be the reason why they actually filed charges, even though from the video, it almost looked like, man, he damn near did what he had to do.
Yeah, man. I mean, this kind of reminds me of what we talked about last week on episode 38 of Streets and Scholars when we talked about the sheriffs over there beating up on Blake Anderson out in Inglewood. It looks like Blake Anderson's going to lose an eye, but he was definitely not complying in the same way that Patrick was not complying. And, you know, that went bad for Blake. It looks like, I mean, he didn't lose his life, but he's going to lose an eye. And I'm really, it's hard for me to defend these guys that don't comply, that end up getting shot and killed by the police, because we know how that ends up. It's not like he had his hands up and he was surrendering and got shot and killed. He's fighting and fighting and fighting. And if you look close at the video, I do believe he's got the guy's taser. He's got the police officer's taser in his right hand. And from the body cam footage in the first tussle they had, because they actually had two tussles. In the first tussle, he just clearly grabs the taser.
He just grabbed it. Yeah.
You know, hey, you grab a cop's taser, man. I think it's you know, anything goes at that point.
Well, you know, you're using the kind word to comply. You know, and it's clearly just another word to get the people who's listening a better view. You know, this was clearly high power resistant. You know, he wrestled with the officer and fought with him for a minute. I mean, they struggled, they tuggled, he grabbed a taser. And listen, man, I'm never for an officer killer, a white officer killing a black man ever. You know, all I'm saying is this guy could have his life. You know. I still believe he could have backed up off. I still believe he could have backed, even after dude got the taser, he could have backed up off of him and, you know, hit him then. Let dude turn around, hit him in the chest. You know, you kind of got, you know, probably, but like you say, he could have lifted up that taser from any angle and hit him. And then now he got the police officer's gun, you know. So, it's hard for me to defend the dude on this one. That's the problem. Much as I want to, Alex, I can't even, after seeing the video and really examine it, it's hard for me to, you know, ride with him. You know, it's a tragic loss for a black man, you know, from a white officer. I get it. But at the same time, this is not the, you know, the case of some of these other situations that we see out in the street, you know, and you know, I just think dude could have preserved his life if he fought and fought. He never got subdued until he was dead. I mean, he never got his hand his hands was never behind his back. He fought with the officer the whole time. So yeah, it was just tragic, man.
There's even a point when they're wrestling on the ground, the cop is on his back and Patrick almost kind of just lifts his whole body off the ground.
No. Like my big brother used to do me when I'm trying to ride. He just get up. I'm on his back. He just get up, do what he wanted to do. And but it was a sad situation that he was shot in the back of the head, man, by this officer. I know a lot of people was gonna say, man, you know, it's still excessive force. He should, but people, I mean, if I'm fighting with a dude, I'm gonna be honest with you, and he got a weapon, and it's me or him at the end of the day, you know. And I believe that could be how this officer was looking at it. But don't take our word for it before you judge. Go look at the video.
Yeah.
You know, look at the full length of the video and you guys make an assessment on what you guys think. But I just really believe that I believe the officer could have got up and let him make another move before he shot him. But, you know, it went like how it went.
Well, I'll put a link to the whole video in the show notes of this episode. But I wanted to play a clip from court where the judge actually decided that he will face second-degree murder charges. I think a lot of people were surprised, but here's the judge speaking on it right now.
In applying the probable cause standard, there is at least some evidence from which a person of average intelligence could conclude that defendant's shooting of Lyoya in the back of the head was not reasonably necessary to prevent his escape. As the prosecutor suggests, at the instant that the shot was fired, Lyoya is not in a position of actively escaping or fleeing. A reasonable juror could find a lack of necessity for deadly force strictly for the purpose of preventing escape. Therefore, for the foregoing reasons, the court concludes that as a matter of law, probable cause has been presented to support the charge in the criminal complaint. Accordingly, it is the court's legal obligation to bind defendant over to the 17th Circuit Court to stand trial on that charge.
And you know what? I think that the officer got the same treatment that you and I would have got. Even if we were right about the way we had to defend ourselves, we still got to go to court and fight it. We still got to go prove it to a jury. And shouldn't the police be kept to that same standard that the average citizen is?
No doubt. You know what I mean? I'm not knocking him for being charged. I'm just saying when it come down to it, on a personal opinion, and I'm heavy on the police shooting a black man, believe I am, I'm just so, to me, I get more mad at the suspects who do the running, who do the, the extra, well, it ain't even a running. It's the fighting with the officer, putting yourself in a situation to be gunned down over minute shit. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If you a murder suspect, no, I got you. Do all you can do. If you a life sentence coming, do all you can do. I get that. But in these minor situations, Alex, where you can go get 1 or 2 years, if that, you losing your life, and then we saying that, the officer, I would just believe, like I say, this officer, he have a fight to fight. I believe he have some, with the right representation, he can come out all right, but also with the right jury, he could be convicted.
Well, I think if he gets a high-powered attorney and he argues that he felt that his life was threatened because Patrick had possession of his taser and he didn't comply to police commands, he might beat this case.
Well, this would be the one that if he did, it'd be a wobbler. It'd just be like, it's not like the others. It's not like the other where they were just cold-blooded murdered. This one, he only problem I got is him being shot in the back of the head. If the officer would have jumped up, shot him in the back, I could have been comfortable with that. I'm not comfortable with him shooting him in the back of the head. He executed the dude. So when I say I'm understanding from the officer's perspective, because like you say, shooting a dude in the back, with a 9mm, man, I done seen him. I've been hit with a 357. You ain't dead. You jump up and move around and do some, but I just would have felt more comfortable if he'd have got up off of him, then shot him in the body somewhere. You didn't have to dome this dude. That's where my problem coming. Just the shot to the back of the head. Everything else, I kind of felt him because of the situation he was in.
And when I'm watching the video, it almost looks like the cop didn't mean to shoot just by looking at his facial expression, and maybe I shouldn't judge it by his facial expression, but it almost looks like he wanted to just pull the gun out to maybe subdue Patrick. Maybe Patrick will cooperate once he feels this barrel on the back of his head. And I kind of think it just went off.
Man, I'm going to tell you, and I don't want to say nothing, Alex. I saw the same thing, but people going to say we reading too much into things, but if you go look really good, he pulled out the gun. He put it to his head. Patrick bucked him a little bit. And when he bucked him, seemed like the gun just went off. You know what I mean? And he could have did it on accident, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because it's not even like a common position or a common location you want to shoot a suspect when you're that close to him, because the bullet could ricochet right off of the skull, the cranium, and he was right on top of it. So in a position like that, you want to shoot the person in the back where there's soft tissue. So I'm not even sure where the bullet went in. It might have went in at the bottom of the neck, the bottom of the head, but it just didn't seem like that's what he wanted to do. It just seems like that's what ended up happening.
You know what, to me, and that's going to be my final say on it. To me, Alex, it seemed like when he was pushing himself, like I said, I felt he should have got up off of him and then, to reassess the situation, and if you needed to shoot him then. When he was pushing himself up off of him, dude bucked, and when he was pushing himself up off of him, we heard the shot. And to me, it seemed like, I've seen people with a gun in their hand do certain things with and the gun go off. And to be honest with you, man, people go look at the video, see what you guys see. Alex may post something on Streets and Scholars where we can get some opinions on it, but I don't know if this was clear murder accident, but at the same time, he's being held accountable for it, and we're gonna see how it pan out.
Yeah, I think that if the police officer would be in a worse position if he said he accidentally killed him, because then that would mean 100% guilty of doing something that you didn't intend to do. So now he's got to defend what he did. And I think he's got a better chance at defending the second-degree murder charge than saying it was an accident.
Yeah, see, I was thinking the opposite. I was thinking if he hey, bro, man, I pushed up, the gun went off. I had it in my hand. I'm trying to get in position to, if he point this taser at me, yeah, I'm going to shoot him then. And the gun, I'm thinking that would have been a better defense. But like you say, no, don't,
No, you don't want to admit it as an accident unless you argue that the gun went off because of Patrick's body movement, because he would not stay still. He kept on fighting. He kept on tussling. He kept on wrestling, and it went off. But Christopher Schurr is going to be charged with second-degree murder, and that's going to be an interesting case to watch if you're in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm going to try to tap in with that trial here from L.A. because I'm always interested when police officers go on trial, because it's always an interesting presentation of the law and how, and then it's interesting to see how the juries, how the jury will take it. I'm not familiar with the racial demographics.
Man,
of
I was
Grand
just going to ask you that. That was my next question. Yeah.
But if Grand Rapids is a lily white town,
I believe it may be, bro. I believe it may
they
be.
They gotta have some black folks.
Yeah.
Man. But all right, man. The last thing I wanted to talk about, man, was Takeoff, man, from the Migos, man, shot and killed in Houston. They were at a private party at a bowling alley, and apparently they was shooting dice outside of the venue there and got into an argument. And right now there's about 50 theories on the internet that of what happened, but somebody pulled a gun out and Takeoff got shot twice. No, actually, I think he did get shot twice, but there was multiple gunshots.
Yeah, no doubt. If I'm not mistaken, they were at a bowling alley at a private party. I believe they were on a patio or something like that. And, actually Quavo got into the argument. I did see videos of that. If you really go back and look at the videos that's surfacing around the internet, Takeoff was never part of the problem. He was never part of the argument. He was never part of the discussion. He was merely there, Quavo got into the argument with the guys. I know it's reported that I believe a few people were there, and once the argument took flight, and gunshots got the flying, it's enough footage on the internet for us to speak on what I saw on the internet. Takeoff was never involved in nothing. It seemed like he was just there, and ended up getting killed. And a lot of times, Alex, to be honest with you, from what I know about the street, it's usually the dude who's either, the basketball player or the guy who just there or the cousin, or it's never the dudes who actually just, squabbing or shooting, or it's always an innocent bystander, it seemed like. Even though he was with Quavo and with that party, man, from everything I seen on the clips, he was chilling the whole time.
Yeah, man. It was kind of hard for me to see what was going on because whoever was shooting the footage, they weren't good camera persons because the cameras are moving back and forth, side to side. People are holding the cameras vertical rather than horizontal. So I just didn't really put much attention into the actual videos. But from what the police chief of Houston, Troy Finner, black police chief from Houston, he said that there's 40 people that were witnesses, and as of yesterday, none of them wanted to give a statement, but he thinks that in the next few days they're gonna be able to piece this whole thing together. And because there's so much footage, they're gonna have an arrest by the time we probably drop this episode.
Man, they done pieced that shit together already. They know exactly what happened. They telling us, of course they can't give us all the insight to what they know at the moment, but clearly they know a whole lot. Now when you got cell phone, you got fucking people right there filming it. You got people, and that's the one thing I don't get. Who filming a fucking argument? Who, people just pull out their cameras for any motherfucking thing. Yeah, they do. Know what I mean? And, you filming an argument and shit, goddamn that. So everybody caught right then. So in one instance, people take heed. You know, Street and Scholars listeners, listen. When you out there, this shit going down, you're being filmed, bro. You know, you at a club, you at a party. This shit is being filmed from one angle, whether it's the club, the bowling alley got footage. I'm sure we haven't seen that shit. You know, it's a lot of footage that they going to put together. It's a lot of witnesses that they going to have. And like you said, before this episode dropped, they may have somebody arrested. On the flip side, Alex, talented young man, talented young brother. You know, I've never heard nothing, you know, crazy about Takeoff. You know, the Migos were, a hit group. You know, they broke up and still made hits. You know, tragic thing, man. Young black dude just dead, bro.
But here's the bigger question: is this another L that hip hop takes? Is this another loss for the rap, or is this is just street stuff? This is city stuff, or is this really is this a blow to hip hop?
Me personally, I don't think it's a blow to hip hop. You know, this wasn't a move on the Migos itself, or when they seen these dudes, they just wanted to take flight on them and, you know, holler at them because they were who they were. I believe this is a situation where millionaires injecting themselves into nigga shit. You know, injecting themselves into street shit that they maybe once grew up in and they familiar with, but you forgot. You a fucking multi-millionaire, you know, around dudes who don't have what you have. You know, dudes that don't got no problem pulling that pistol out. You know, your security team was subpar at best. You know, for you guys to have all that kind of money, you know, I know you want to go places and okay, these the homies. But when you got that kind of money, Alex, it ain't no homies like that. Your security team supposed to be A1, on point. You know, dude shouldn't even be able to get too close to you. You know, I seen in the video, because it's clear to see that Quavo's arguing with somebody. If that kind of money, Alex, your security team supposed to be so tight, homie, that you never get face to face with a dude. You know what I mean? You and these dudes, I believe, because they were ex-street dudes, you know, they're not taking into consideration that, you know, dudes will still lay you down. You know, they don't care who you are, they'll still lay you down. So I don't know all the dynamics of what happened. I do know what I saw. You know, I saw argument take place. I saw a little lightweight scuffle, and then I heard gunshots. You know, dudes of your caliber, whether it was the other dudes could have been millionaires too. Both of you dudes should have been in a situation where it had been security teams so tight that you guys never even get in a situation like that. And I feel that's where they lacked at. That's where they dropped the ball.
Now, I heard a rumor that there were it was a dice game going on. Can you see any of that in the video?
I've never seen not one dice game, not one shake of the dice, not one roll of a dice, not one talk about betting. You know, the little bit I heard, they were talking about, you know, maybe don't play me like that, or I ain't going for that, or don't talk to me like that. By the end, it had escalated into a lightweight argument. And this where I say, this is where your security team, listen, I could be up at the park in Compton. When voices get raised, I got little homies that's finna come get in front of me, just like, and I'm gonna be like, I'm just saying, hold on, I can speak for myself. Mm-hmm. Got little homies that's finna jump in there like, no, this ain't, you know, this mere me, you know. And for dudes that got millions, y'all don't got this kind of people around you, you know, that's sad. You know, so it's a tragic situation because, like, from what I see, Takeoff I never seen him like raise his voice. I didn't see him wave no arm. I didn't see him point no hands. I mean, I wasn't there. I'm just saying, seemed like dude was the innocent one that got shot, and didn't seem like he was really a part of the scuffle.
Now, if it turns out there was a dice game and there was some sort of gambling, is that something that guys on the level of the Migos, including Quavo and Takeoff, should not even be participating in a street dice game when you're a multimillionaire?
Not if you're not shooting dice with other multimillionaires.
Yeah.
If you're not
what they hitting for if you multimillionaires in a dice game?
Shit, 10,000 a bet. No less than a rack. No less than a rack. No less than a rack, homie. And then some of them bets gonna be bet 10. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, like you say, you know, you around dudes who you feel as homies. You know, you feel you comfortable with, you know, and this ain't even, and the sad part about it is, you know, like I said, I've had a small level of change before, you know, but more than the average dude in the hood had, you know, and it was certain situations, you know, like I said, I told you about a situation with Stanley Pitts even told me one time, you know, man, why is you up here at 2 a.m. up at the park. You know, what you mean what I'm doing? I've been up here my whole life at 2 a.m. You know what I mean? Yeah. You know, and but some people believe that once you reach a certain status that maybe they hear shit you don't hear. Maybe they see shit you don't see, you know, and it's just, you know, better that you not out shooting dice, you know, with a certain crowd in a certain area, you know, just based on, you know, if you take their money, they not going to, you know, be comfortable with it, you know.
I think sometimes you just got to avoid certain places, even if you have a nice little security team, as you mentioned, because from what I remember, when young Dolph got shot and gunned down at that cookie store, he had somebody there that was armed, and that person actually did return fire, but it was too late. And I think once the person has the drop on you, it don't matter if you got 2 security, 3 security, an AK is going to outdo any security team you got while you posted up at a cookie shop. You know what I'm saying? So maybe my thing is if you're young Dolph or, you know, whoever, you just can't go to the cookie shop in the hood anymore.
Well, that's the thing about it. You got a point there. But I also heard that they had the security with them. You know, I'm waiting for more information to come out. I don't want to be the one to speculate or say some shit that I heard. You know what I mean?
Who had security? A Takeoff?
Takeoff and Quavo.
Okay.
Now. You know, they had security with them. You know what I mean? Armed security. So, you know, but like I said, I'm going to let the media come out and tell it. You know what I mean? I see everybody rush to, you know, tell what they saw.
They trying to solve this on the internet, man.
Hey, man, but they doing a damn good job because I done seen some shit like, damn, how they know that? I done heard some narratives was like, damn.
Yeah.
But my point is, if all these narratives is on the internet this fast, guess what the police know? Think about what the police know. If bloggers know this much, think what the police know.
Hey, the police might be learning from the bloggers.
Shit, they just may be.
And these guys might be helping the police solve a case.
No doubt, but at the same time, you do have people that was there that's making statements to bloggers. You know what I mean? That's calling, you know, certain bloggers tapping in with them. No, I was actually there. What happened was the bloggers putting this information out and the police is sucking the information up, getting added information. That's why I say I'm not going to speak on nothing that I heard on the internet because I wasn't there, but I am waiting to see, you know, how did their security team respond. I believe this situation right here, this case is not going to be a fuzzy one. I believe this is going to be a transparent case all the way around, and some information going to come out that I believe we not going to like.
Well, Chief Troy Finner told the media yesterday or this week that there were 2 shooters. So this was clearly a shootout.
Right.
Person A shot, person B shot back. I don't know if you can determine who shot first from the video. Was it Quavo's camp returning fire after they're getting shot at first, or is it the other way around?
Well, you know what? One thing about it is, like I say, we got camera footage, but we didn't get that video from the bowling alley. Best believe they got this whole thing on tape. You know, best believe they already know who the shooters are, probably their names, you know, probably staking out their pads right now, you know, trying to catch up with them because the shooters know who they are, so they not at home. You know what I mean? So, you know, I believe that it's going to be some arrests made. I believe, like I say, this case is going to be transparent, and all the information I believe is going to come out on this case.
Yeah, this case is going to get solved easier than some of the other ones, just because of the amount of witnesses there. There were 40 people there, and then you have, like you said, people were already pre-recording on their phones,
no doubt,
and then the cameras that are in the place. So yeah, man, it's just crazy, man. I don't think this has anything to do with hip hop, but I just think it has to do with, you know, our crime rates are going up in all these cities, including Houston. I looked at the homicide numbers in Houston for the years from COVID to the present, 2020 to 2022, and their numbers are going up just like LA's numbers are.
No doubt. It's you know, it's crazy, man. I was talking to somebody yesterday, man, and I remember in the 80s, Alex, everybody, you know, everybody wasn't no bunch of shooters from every hood. You had a handful of them from every hood, man. 88, 89, man. It wasn't no. Now everybody shoots. You know what I mean? The scared, the busters, the rats, you know, everybody shoot now. It used to be like limited shooters, you know. Now, Alex, it's just, you know, everybody quick to pull a gun and start popping it, you know, and no compassion for life, you know, and it's happening in the black community more than I want to see.
Yeah, man. Well, it's unfortunate that hip hop lost another icon, Takeoff from the Migos. And I guess we'll just wrap it up right there, man. Any last words before we wrap up this episode of Streets and Scholars?
No, man, hey, go check out the video with the, Officer Schurr and Patrick?
Christopher Schurr from the Grand Rapids
Police Department. Yeah. And check out that video. Let us know what you guys think. And appreciate y'all tapping in with Streets and Scholars.
And you just dropped a couple of videos on your channel, man.
Oh, no doubt, man. Tap into FG Unleashed, man. Listen, you looking for that real, you looking for that raw. I know some people looking for super drama. But, at the end of the day, I have videos that you can, have your little brother listen to, have your sons listen to in certain situations, and go in there and get some, some motivation, man, that we need to turn this thing around, man, because this thing that happened with Takeoff, man, and, and a whole lot of other black men, just getting out of hand, Alex. So
definitely the title of your most recent video is Gangsters Don't Forget What the Plan Is. The goal is to make it. So go tap into FG Unleashed. Also tap into FG's Instagram page at FGeneral1 and tap in with Street TV on YouTube. In fact, I just posted the press conference from the Houston PD regarding the homicide of Takeoff out there in Houston. So you can check that out and hit me up on all social media platforms, Alex Alonso 101. And we'll also have a link to both the Patrick Lyoya shooting and the link to Courtney Klenney use of the N-word in the show notes of this episode. And thanks for tapping in with another episode of Streets and Scholars.